This is Chapter 4. It's about shooting tips, frame rates, and controlling the light. We're also going to show you how to take better video. Let's talk about how to record the most dynamic images. No matter why you bought your camcorder, you'll want to get beautiful, moving, and dynamic video that shows your subjects and also tells your story. Basic composition. Let's take a look at some basic composition techniques. To do this, we'll use our camcorder set to a 16:9 or a widescreen image. Since much of our video shooting is either buildings or people, there are some things you should remember when shooting these subjects. Here's a shot of our model. Many people will try and position their subjects in the middle of the screen as we've done here. The problems with the shot are that there is too much headroom. It's better to take your camcorder and position her to one side of the image, so she's showing you the subject and you have her image larger than it was and you can see her clearly. Another common mistake when composing a shot is to cut the person's body off. Headshots should look like this one rather than with the top of the head missing or the side of the body cut off, that sort of thing. Many camcorders will give you the opportunity to turn on some guides, and this brings us the chance to talk about the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is a very popular rule, if you will, in photography and art. What it does is break your image up into 3 slices, both vertically and horizontally, as we've done here. It can help you position things to provide the most pleasing shots. Here's a few examples. In this shot, our model's eyes are positioned along the top third line. There's appropriate headroom, and we've even filled the screen with her image. Zoomed back, this time we've positioned the camera so our model is along one side of the screen, looking in. She can move if she wants, and she can show us the scene behind her, and she's free to walk through the shot to the other side of the screen, giving us motion and adding interest when she talks. So much of the time, our videos show a bunch of static people posing for the camera, as we've been taught to do in still photography over 2 centuries ago. Remember, we're using video cameras, and they can capture motion, so use it. Your subject will be less nervous, and you'll have a better video. Fill that screen. Your eye, greatly assisted by your mind, can overemphasize what you see in the viewfinder or monitor. You tend to think of things as larger and closer than they really are. If you just press the button and record, you'll come home with shots that are not what you thought you had. They'll feature small people with huge backgrounds that doesn't really grab the magnificence of what you remembered you saw. That's why it's important to take a second look before pressing the record button. Ask yourself a couple of simple questions. Does your subject fill the screen? Does it look as magnificent on the LCD monitor or the viewfinder as it does in person? Try your best to use as much of the screen or viewfinder as you can to capture your scene without cutting things off. You can take that wide shot. It's a great tool to establish the size of something, but for the most part, getting as close to your subject as possible and filling the screen will give you much more satisfying and pleasing results. Choosing a viewpoint. One of the things that can improve your videos and make them more interesting is to alter your viewpoint, or where you're standing to shoot your video. It's easy to think while you're looking at a scene, boy, that would look great on video, so do it. Take that shot. But then think differently and position yourself at a different angle to the subject or scene. Here are 3 shots of the same entrance to a local market. The first one is what we saw when we first came upon the market, while the second and third are from different perspectives. One is almost on the ground looking up. They can all be cut together with some music later on to make it more interesting. Also note, we didn't just zoom into the shot to crop it. We moved the camera closer to the subject and on a different angle to get the shot. In your quest to get closer to your subjects, you might be tempted to take the easy way out and just zoom into your subject. That doesn't change the angle or the perspective, it just helps you frame the shot better. What I would rather you do is move yourself and the camera as much as you can before you use the zoom. Think of the zoom last when composing and using it to remove any unwanted distractions, or when it's impossible to move any closer. Then use your zoom to get in close. We talked earlier about digital zoom, and we want to remind you to avoid using it. especially at the 200 times and 300 times and even 800 times setting. But you might get a pleasing shot by using it sparingly. Okay, so you have a few ideas on how to compose your videos. Remember too that unlike your still picture camera, you can pan left and right, and you can tilt the camera up and down to draw attention to your scene. Video is a motion picture device, so once again, use that motion to your advantage. Panning is the term that refers to any left or right motion of your camera. When looking at a big cityscape like this one in Vancouver, consider starting your shot on one side of the cityscape and slowly panning to the other side. Doing this helps to capture more detail because you can do so with the camcorder closer to your subject. It's also a great way to show more of the scene that your camera's lens is capable of doing. The trick here is to do it slowly enough to make it pleasing for your viewer. Don't do it quickly, as in this pan. It'll make some members of your audience motion sick. At the same time, avoid doing it too slowly because you'll bore people. Practice the shot a few times and then shoot it a few times. You can always select the best one later on in the edit suite. Tilting is the term that refers to moving the camera up and down as we're showing here. Like panning, it can be used to show more of the scene than your lens can show, and it can be used to draw attention to certain parts of your subject or scene. Tilting up a building will emphasize its height, while starting from the sky and tilting down on a cityscape will help you add some drama to your scene. In this shot, I'm tilting and panning to provide a nice, pleasing view of the city. Play around with these types of techniques to add interest or drama to any scene.